Your stories need diversity. Diversity is brought to the public through a diversity of characters, environments, and storylines. You want all your kinds of character to be diverse, and therefore you want your antagonists to be diverse. Another thing to consider is that if you have multiple antagonists in the same story, so you have your main character, you have your protagonist, and you have multiple antagonists around her. Let's suppose you have your protagonist and she has 6 different antagonists. These antagonists are likely to be antagonistic toward one another, because some of them will be friends with the protagonist, some of them will be some sort of supporter, like typically the rival, the friend, and the sponsor will be more tightly knit to your protagonist and will have an interest into helping her to progress, contrary to the other 3. So there's a high possibility, for example, that your sponsor or your rival is opposed to the official type of antagonist. So you have to think about the initial relationships between all your antagonists in order to prevent their antagonistic behavior toward one another. Now, the 4th main type of initial relationship when it comes to antagonists may be envy. One character may want to be like another character, and here you can replace the word character by antagonist, but it applies in a broader way. One character may want to be like one character, or one character may want to replace another character, either in position or in the function of the character in the story. There's the innocent type of initial relationship. So one character may obey one other character, or may follow one other character because she doesn't know a better way, because she doesn't know how to do things differently, because she has never been exposed to different way of thinking. She is unable to have a broader or a different perspective on the situation. There's the amity type of initial relationship, and again here the important word is initial relationship. All of these 4 are meant to evolve, and they can turn into the other, but the initial relationship, the first impression, will always be the same because it's the initial relationship. There's the amity type. So a character may want to help another character, so as equal often, but there may be some form of a hierarchy between them. It's not important because here the key word is wants to help. There's no form of subversion, there's no form of duress between these 2 characters. Even if one of them is the subordinate, she wants to be with this character. And she may act as an ambassador because she promotes the message of the first character she's helping. And finally, the last type is the initial hatred. So 2 characters, and you'll see that in murder mysteries, you'll see that in horror, you'll see that in drama. 2 characters may initially develop a hatred for one another, or it can be asymmetrical, and it's just one character which hates another character because this other character did her harm in the past. And it may manifest by revenge, but revenge is not the only way to manifest hatred, it's just the most common way. So if you want to manifest hatred easily, just go for revenge. It can be an individual type of hatred, so I hate one person because this person killed a member of my family, harmed me, tortured me personally in some way, and so on. Or hatred against a group. And here, it's not really 2 different strata, it's much more. One individual did something, and then I extrapolate because I'm quite rigid. I extrapolate that to the whole group. So one person did that to someone close to me, so it must mean that other person in that group may be able to do the same thing. And that's the 4 initial type of antagonistic relationships. One trait of these 6 ways is linked to the fact that you want to create a sustainable relationship between your characters. Now, sustainability here is essential because your goal as a storyteller is to create emotional attachment. Now, emotional attachment, and especially antagonistic emotional attachment, start with animosity. Your character, your protagonist, will oppose someone. Because remember, your protagonist is the antagonist of your antagonist, because they're fighting each other, they're opposing each other, they're trying to harm each other to some degree in order to stop one another. This relationship, this emotional attachment, may start or may develop into a support type of relationship. So there may be some animosity at the start, or the characters may support each other at the start. That's two ways to create an antagonist which will be attached to your character. And remember, if you can attach two characters, if you can create attachment between two characters, you can create attachment between your characters and your public. Third way is, well, simply attachment. But now, the word attachment in this situation takes a more specific sense. That you may want to create some antagonists which will be here for your character, for your protagonist, whatever happens. That may be the rival type, it may be the friend type, it may be the pupil type, it may be the mentor type. Some characters will become more familiar or may become directly part of the family of your character, part of a tight group, part of a very limited group. So attachment here in this situation means literally part of a family or part of a very tightly knit group. Finally, you want to take care of this relationship. You want to camp this relationship. You want to upkeep it and keep it afloat. You want this relationship to remain visible through the whole story, and you want to develop implications every time one of the two characters is put in a situation which is detrimental for it. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that one character will help the other. No, because we have antagonists here. So an antagonist may benefit from a detrimental situation for your main character, and she may use this detrimental situation to harm your character even more. So some profiles that we've presented in the beginning of this video are meant to do so. The betrayer type of profile, the profiteer type of antagonists will use a difficult situation to harm your character even more. Here are 6 surefire ways to create antagonists. Each of these ways is defined by one keyword. The first way is the way of the rival. The rival is defined by the keyword evolution. Rivals are here for the game. Rivals are here for the competition. Rivals are here to help your character evolve and grow. So if your character evolve enough, they can be remediated. The second way is the victim. Your characters will meet victims. We will meet characters who've been into incidents, into crisis. And during this crisis, they'll happen to be able to save these victims. This will create a link of sympathy between your characters and the victim. The third way is the friend. Friendship is a kind of relationship which is by nature sustainable. And as the story evolves, the friendship will evolve, maybe to a point where two friends will become enemies. The fourth way is the fool. Now, the fool is an antagonist which is defined by failure, by multiple attempts, by multiple tries, experience, and sustainable failure. The fool will fail, which will make her a dramatic character up to a point which she'll reach and where she'll want to become something more. Now, how will she become something more? She'll get an opportunity from another antagonist, and this other antagonist will transform her. The fifth profile is the sponsor. Now, a relationship between your characters, your team, so your protagonist and her supporter, and the sponsor is a relationship of dependency. The sponsor is giving to your team resources, or at least she's exchanging with your team resources at a rate which is highly advantageous for your team. However, know that this dependency is not completely asymmetrical, and to some extent, the sponsor is also dependent on your main character. The last way of creating an antagonist is the official way. Now, an official is part of an administration, not necessarily a state or not necessarily a country, but the official is part of a large administration, of a large company, of a large organization. So she will exert some form of authority, and this authority, her position, her state, and her organization will allow her to oppose your protagonist. If you enjoyed this content and want to know more on this topic, check our video on the 6 surefire way to create an antagonist.